you're actually better off finding the right resources to do that job at $10 or $20 an hour or whatever it may be. And you can concentrate on doing what's going to bring the $1,000 an hour, for example, into the door.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that.
Hello and welcome to Trillions. I'm your host, Alyse Grace, and today I'm chatting with Sam Bashiry, founder of the award-winning ISP company Broadband Solutions. Sam was born in Iran and came to Australia when he was just 10 years old. His journey is super inspiring, and Sam shares stories of the company's beginnings to now, 15 years later, making over $25 million in annual revenue. Sam gives practical advice on building your confidence and overcoming the tough times, and how owning supercars can open doors. This episode of Trillions is sponsored by Xenox Diamonds. Mention my name or the Trillions podcast and they will give you a free upgrade to platinum with any engagement or wedding ring purchase. Find them on Queen Street in Brisbane or order online. Thank you so much, Sam, for joining me on the Trillions podcast today. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Man, you've been doing a lot of stuff lately. You're the founder of Broadband Solutions, and you've just launched your own podcast called Thousands to Millions. You've got entrepreneurs and supercars as well, YouTube series. You're always smiling. I'd love you to take it back though. Take us back and tell us a bit of a story about where you came from. I know you came from Iran. Tell us about that story. How did you get to Australia?
Sure. Okay. So I was born in Iran, so in Tehran, which is the capital city of Iran. I came to Australia with my mum and sister at the age of 10 as a refugee. So we were locked up in a detention center, I believe, around 2 years.
Crazy.
From there, I went to primary school, high school, like most kids do. Couldn't speak a word of English. So, it was a bit challenging learning the language when we got here. Also, not just the language, but also the culture, totally different culture to what I was used to growing up.
Yeah.
But that said, very lucky and blessed to be in a very beautiful country and have great people here. So we are very lucky. I think we take that for granted. How lucky we are to be Australian. Look, that's where I'm from. And then I went to high school, went to university, did a double degree, electrical engineering and computer systems.
All right. Why'd you choose that?
Yeah. It was just something that, for me, in terms of our culture, the Persian culture, you either had to become a doctor or engineer. Otherwise, you're a failure.
Oh, okay.
So it was something that I never had any interest in. I did it to keep my parents happy. So I lasted at that course 6 months. I dropped out of that university after 6 months. I really had no interest at all.
Yeah.
And then I went and did information technology at Swinburne University. I didn't complete that either. I dropped out of that. I think I had only 6 months left or so when I dropped out of that degree. Look, uni wasn't for me. I wasn't really doing something that I was really interested in. Looking back now, if I did a business degree, I think I would have probably really enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that I was interested in. I just did it because, it was expected of me growing up to be, to be successful. You had to do a university degree.
Yeah.
And I'm not bagging university degrees. It works for some people, but for me, it wasn't what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, my parents, they were big on education and private schools, and both my sister and I went to uni and finished and graduated. But man, even I remember being in high school and they gave me a big thick book like this that had all these different job titles. I was like, what is this? And I literally just flicked through, picked a degree and then studied. And then after I finished a uni degree, 20, 30 grand in debt, started, going to jobs saying, hey, hire me. I've got this uni degree and these great scores. And they were like, where's your experience? So it's like a little bit of a lie that we're fed. No, you go to uni, you get a job, you need to work for free for a bit. So
I totally agree.
It's it's really interesting. So you came from Iran and you somehow adapted here, like you pushed through and you adapted and made a bit of a life for yourself. And you created an IT company. Or actually before that, I know that you're working for an IT company. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's right. So basically, I think I was 28, 29, maybe a little bit younger here or there. And I lived at home with my mum and dad. I was still going to uni. For me, there was a defining moment. So, for example, I came home. I was in the driveway of my mum and dad's house, and I looked in the mirror, the rear view mirror of the car, and I just started crying. I felt like an absolute phony. I felt like a loser. I had no direction in life. I was having a lot of fun at uni. I was having a lot of fun, but I had no direction. I had no direction. I didn't know where I was going with my life. I didn't have a mentor.
What was the
You
job
know,
you were working?
I had no job. So I was at uni, so no job at
Okay,
all.
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was working at a coffee shop while I was at university, so doing that. But
Yeah.
um, and then I reversed the car out, and I went to a Centrelink office. Back then, they had these computers where you touch screen and it prints out a job. IT
Yeah.
was quite new,
Yeah.
and I applied for a job in a telecommunications company. It used to be called EISA, EISA. It was one of the first ones when it came to dial-up internet that were, in Australia. I applied for the job, 459 Collins Street was the ad. I remember like it was yesterday. Level 14. I put on a suit, which was probably 2 sizes too big for me. I went to the interview. The gentleman's name was Stuart. He said, "Are you here for the job interview?" I said, "I am." He goes, "What do you know about internet?" I said, "I know how to use a computer." He said,
Yeah.
$7.50 an hour, and you start tomorrow. And that's when my journey started. So basically, I was doing help desk. I was answering anyone. So if you couldn't get on the internet, this is back in the dial-up days, you call and you ask for support.
Yeah.
And I did that. I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely not at all. I was the first one there. I was the last one to leave. I used to make extra money by logging other people in because they were always late. So they used to call me and I used to log in. We used to have a logging system.
Yeah.
So I used to charge people, I think, $5 to log in into
That's
the system
awesome.
every morning.
Yeah, because it clocks them in, so they get paid the right amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
I used to do that, right? But I did that for a number of years. I think I did that for 2 or 3 years. And while I was doing that, I actually remember I moved from morning shift to night shift.
Mm-hmm.
And during the morning, I was working at ANZ Bank Call Center. So for a while, I had 2 jobs. I was going to the ANZ Bank Call Center for the stock market software.
Yeah.
I was doing that. And when I finished that, I'll have a 1 or 2 hour break. And then I'll go across to ESA, across the road.
Good hustle.
And I did that. Yes, I used to work really hard. And then from there, I thought, you know what? I'm over this job. Everyone that calls is always angry because the internet's not working. This is depressing.
Yeah, but that's good. You're learning their problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. And moved from there to sales. And then from sales, and I did that for a number of years. And technology was changing. It was going from dial-up to broadband. And then in 2005, around that, I thought, you know what? There's a niche in the market for a player that's carrier neutral, which basically means you're not a Telstra house or Optus house. You're somebody that has their own network but can sell your service through any carrier.
Yeah.
And I started the company Broadband Solutions, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, that's crazy. So how do you know there was a need for that service?
Because look, I was in the industry for so long. I did that for 2-3 years. I did support, I did sales, and there was really a lot of focus on residential services, and there's a lot of focus on high-end corporate services. There was nothing in between. So for me, it was about finding, and they usually only sold one product, like either like they were a Telstra, a partner, or Optus or someone, or they had their own thing. So for me, it was like I select of internet in a way, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
so for us, you came to us and we gave you the best product at the best price based on your location. So no one was doing that back then.
Yeah. So cool. And you guys provide a lot of hotels with broadband, and now you're branching into schools. Is that right?
That's
so you
correct.
focus more on B2B?
Yeah, so we don't do residential. So we look after probably, actually, I'll go as high as 90% of all the hotels in Australia.
Awesome.
So basically what it means is that if you stay in a hotel room, you use the internet, we provide that internet connectivity into the hotel and into the room.
Yeah.
But also we look after a lot of schools, healthcare, and also we built our own phone system in the cloud, which allows people to connect, have a virtual phone system anywhere in the world at any time.
Wow. That's epic. So you're on top of it with all the technology and internet.
Yeah.
So when you got started, there's a story I heard somewhere. You called someone and you said, move here within a couple of days and let's get this thing off the ground. What's that story?
Yeah. So that's my business partner, Brad. So I started a business. 6 months into it, I realized that there was a lot to do. And, I was trying to support sales, marketing, accounts, the whole lot, planning on where I'm going to take the business. So there's a gentleman that I used to work with at a company called FTEL. Brad used to work, so FTEL bought the company that I used to work for and the company that Brad used to work for. So Brad was located in Penrith and I was located in Melbourne office. So I never had met Brad face to face. We just spoken over the phone. He was an absolute genius when he came to technology. So yeah, one day after 6 months or so into the business, I was, I was struggling doing everything by myself and I needed help. So it's a typical gloomy, rainy Melbourne day in the corner of Queen and Latrobe Street. I remember like it was yesterday. I picked up the phone and I rang Brad and I said, listen, look, I've started a business. I've covered the rent for the office for the first 12 months based on what I've already done. I'll give you 50% of the business based on you packing your bag and coming to Melbourne by the end of the week. I wasn't too sure if he would do it, to be honest, but he
That's
did.
crazy.
Packed his bags. I picked him up from Tullamarine Airport, and I remember the first thing he said to me was, "I thought you'd be taller than what you are." And we shook hands, and we never signed a single paperwork for probably the first 5 years of our business.
Yeah, crazy.
And he's still my business partner. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. And I always say it's, you two things for me anyway mean a lot, and it's very, very important you make those two right decisions for me anyway. Personally, it's been my business partner and my life partner. And I think those two things are very important for me, and I've been very blessed enough to have both of them turn out really well. So.
Yeah, well, you've obviously got a great feel for people, because those are, even just finding the right life partner can be tricky. So it makes a huge difference though, man. Like I've been with my partner 2 years now, and it's not long compared to some other people, but man, it makes a huge difference when you find someone who genuinely believes in you, and just helps amplify your belief in yourself. Hey, on those moments you have a bit of doubt, and then when you need to be pulled back into place and being told you being a bit big-headed or whatever, it's great. It's really good for them to support and challenge at the same time. So yeah, that's cool.
100%.
Great story. You talk about too, you like I said before, your podcast is thousands to millions. What did you do with that first $1,000? Did you buy infrastructure, or was it the rent, or what did you do with it?
We invested. So the $1,000 is what I used to actually set up the business. So we bought a second-hand router, which we still have somewhere. Actually, I should frame that. It's somewhere in the storeroom. So we bought a router which we needed to be able to do what we were doing back then. And that's the first thing I bought. But for me, it was really, it's been an amazing journey, because for me, it was all about, being from a sales background, it was all about making sales initially when I started the business and getting some runs on the board. That was my main focus. Let's get some runs on the board, right? But as you grow... Do you
remember one of the first few people you did business with?
Yeah, I remember the company I sold to. I still remember it was called Miles Real Estate.
Yeah.
They had two locations. I remember I closed the deal and I had an old Holden Commodore. I remember sitting in my car after closing the deal and opening up a can of a UDL and celebrating by myself and drinking that drink. I never forget.
Yeah.
It's a true story. I haven't told many people that. And I drank that drink, and then I called my wife, who used to be my girlfriend back then, and obviously Brad, and it was one of my happiest moments ever.
Yeah. The first sale.
So yeah, it was really, really exciting. And, I loved sales. I've always loved sales. Like, for me, I never went to a business school. I never had business training.
Yeah.
But I was always good in building relationships. And the secret to my success has been building relationships and building long-term relationships. I'm a massive believer of, long-term, and you always have to do the right thing by people. And if you can't, you should actually say so. And people will respect you more. Yeah. And they will give you another opportunity when something else comes up. Yeah. Right? And I've been a massive advocate of that. It's all about long-term and, building relationships. And, it's funny because I think from memory, that Miles Real Estate, that first sale, I think they were a client probably until a couple of years ago. So for 12, 13 years, they were still a client, which,
That's
you know,
awesome.
says a lot about how they do business.
I hands down agree with you about relationships. Hey, like sales obviously is what drives a business. But when I was younger, I used to watch my granddad treat his staff really well. Every Friday there'd be beers and drinks in the show. He had like a electrical retail store. So he used to treat his staff really well on the Friday afternoons, and people would come in and shake his hand and chat, and then there'd be a sale at the end of it. But it was more about the discussion, and you could tell that there was all these great relationships going on. So I see that, and a couple of people I've interviewed have really emphasized the importance of relationships when it comes to building a business.
People buy off people. People buy off people. You know what I mean? You can buy a certain product from different companies. Why did they choose you? And usually the products, like, it's like, why do you go to that restaurant? Yeah, the food's great, but I go to particular restaurants because I feel at home. When I go there, they're not the waiters and the waitresses and the managers and the sommeliers. They're my family. They become part of my family. So I go not only to eat, I go to see them because they make me happy.
Yeah.
So relationships, I'm a believer of that.
Yeah, I've got favorite coffee joints in Brisbane. There's only 2 places I'll go. I'll drive from wherever I am to go to these specific places just for the smiles, the hello, they know my name, and it's cool, man. It's and it's good coffee.
And no advertising can buy that. And no advertising can buy that kind of loyalty. That's because the way they treat you, and you build that bond with that person, right? And you will go out of your way, like you just said, go and get that coffee, because coffee is coffee. Yes, a little bit better, a little bit worse. But for you to do that, that's because of the relationship that they built, and you can't put money on that.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that's a key thing for people to take note of is relationships. Like, it's way more important than any marketing you could possibly pay for, or a little picture advertisement on Facebook. Yeah, it's effective, but man, relationships where it's at, and how you treat people.
Exactly.
And word gets around quickly, man, because we live in an internet era, and you burn one person and they know 20 people, and you know, reputations.
Very, 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 very important. And that's why when you have a relationship, your churn rate is always low. So when you mentioned advertising and stuff, you're spot on. We can advertise on Facebook, we can pick up sales, but those sales there's no relationship there initially anyway, unless you build a relationship later on. But those sales, the churn rates, if you actually look at the numbers, the churn rates are quite high for things where you pick up a sale online and you have no relationship, because most of it's based on either the product stands out so much that they want that product, there's something new about it, or it's based on price. Yeah. Right?
Or maybe it's some crafty ad that looks cool and they want to be associated. Yeah.
Exactly. But that usually lasts, like, it doesn't last 2 or 3 or 10 years. Unless there's a relationship, that client won't stay with you that long. So, yeah.
That's true. That's a good point. All right, cool. Well, before the potty, Sam, you mentioned that you have a CEO. You don't have that position anymore. How did you go about choosing the right person for that role? And also, in general, how do you choose the right people to bring into your business, especially those high-level positions?
Yeah. So look, for me, I learned a long time ago that you got to work on the business, not in the business. But that's easy said than done. Okay. You know,
I'm learning this. There's so much to do. Even just little things like sending an email, time-consuming.
100%. But, you know, when I started, I didn't have the luxury of doing that. I didn't have a luxury of going and starting a sales team. I didn't have a luxury of, you know, hiring a CEO. I didn't have a luxury of doing all that. And times have changed. When I started my business, if your hand didn't you made no money, right? There was no Instagram. There was no fund rate. There was no raising funds. There was no JVs. None of this stuff existed. You go, you work, you make calls, you make money. You don't do that, you don't make money, right? So it's totally changed. The whole atmosphere changed. But either way, I learned very quickly that you want to work on the business and not in the business. And a lot of the people have small businesses go under because they have this mentality that I can do everything and I can save money. And I'm so against that. I'm really against that, because you find that if, for example, if you're closing deals that are worth, I don't know, let's say $10,000 a month, right? Yeah. And you're going concentrating on, you know, buying the paper clips and doing the everyday stuff that needs to be done, right? Because those things you need to do it, right? Someone needs to do it. But you're like, well, I can go to Officeworks and do that. So you're dragging yourself away So if you're worth, your time's worth $10,000 an hour or whatever it might be, $1,000 or $100, and you're doing something that's worth $10 an hour, you're actually cheating yourself. You're actually better off finding the right resources to do that job at $10 or $20 an hour or whatever it may be. And you can concentrate on doing what's going to bring the $1,000 an hour, for example, into the door.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that. And it's not because they don't analyze it. They're like, and I used to be guilty of that too. So it's, we all do it. I'm like, no, I can do this. I can do that. And a lot of us become control freaks, Yeah. It's like, because we want something, we become perfectionists. Oh my God, I have to do everything myself. Because if I get someone else to do it, it'll never be done the way I want to do it. But that's just a fact of life, right? So we got to understand that we play a certain thing, and that's where we should focus on. But going back to your question, my CEO. So for me, I've started this business in 2005. So 15 years I've been doing this. And for me, it was about time to, number one, get a fresh set of eyes into the business. Very important. And number two, it was about me stepping away and focusing on a couple of special projects that I'm focusing on, but also doing things for me to feed my soul, doing things that are new for me, like, doing my podcast and doing this stuff. I'm not an expert, right? So for me, I'm back to ground zero. I feel vulnerable talking on camera and doing all that, even though it might not come across.
You're great at it. You're awesome at it.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing, but people don't realize it's all new to me as well, right? Yeah. So I'm going through all those things as well. So for me, it was about doing that. But the process, it took me 2 years to find the right CEO to answer the question. So for me, I went on a journey to, and for me, it wasn't just about the experience. It was more about the fit. Of course, you have to have some experience of some sort, but it was mainly about, do you fit with my way of thinking? Do you fit within our culture, within our company? And do I see, and I didn't want to go and hire another CEO. I wanted to hire someone that was just below a CEO, but had the potential to be an amazing CEO. It took me 2 years to find that. And I've been blessed enough to have a fantastic CEO. Peter does a great job, and I'm very, very happy about that. Well, it takes time. It took me 2 years to do that. And sometimes you're lucky, it might not take you that long. But I think, again, as I said at the start, your business partner, your life partner, your CEO, again, that's another thing that you really need to get right. And
just delegating to the right people those roles so you can keep 100%. On with your mission and what really keeps your fire lit, keeps you happy, motivated.
Spot on.
It sounds like in the beginning days, you're really a driven person and you're very outgoing and you're great with people. So like that networking, that building relationships is what you're great at, which brought the business in. And now you've delegated some of those tasks so you can focus on the next thing to light your fire and make it bigger. So,
spot on.
Yeah, important lesson for especially the smaller businesses. Man, we're in the process of delegating right now. We've already delegated some stuff. It makes such a big difference. Hey, just to
100%.
You can go from this vision to just, it opens up and you start seeing new things because you're not clouded with the little things.
I totally agree.
And then you're giving someone else a job too. You're feeding another mouth rather than just your own, which is cool. So in your moments of doubt, Sam, I'm sure there were some tough times in the business, that you went through the financial crisis of 08, 09 and 07, 8, 9. How do you pull through? So like I said, you're a very outgoing, vivacious person, but how do you pull through those tough times? You got a good mindset.
You got to get on with it. It's simple. You just got to get on with it, right? Shit happens. Things go wrong, right? It's just a fact of life. It happens in your everyday life, let alone your business, right? Certain things you have no control over. Okay, I have no control over the economy. I have no control over coronavirus. You don't have any control over these things, right? So it's about just getting on with it, but also making sure that, you learn lessons. When you make small mistakes, those small mistakes, when you're growing your business initially, it's okay to make small mistakes, right? And those small mistakes will help you and train you for the bigger times, the difficult times when you're a much, much bigger company. So imagine if you never made a mistake and you were always successful, right? Imagine that. Imagine if life was always good and you never made a mistake and then boom, something bad happened. You wouldn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? There's no dummy's guide to how do you deal with the coronavirus. Right? There's no such a thing, right?
There will be though in a few months. I'm sure it'll be on the bookshelf.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, during those tough times, it was putting into practice things that I had learned throughout the last 15 years in my journey. So for example, making sure we have reserves for cash flow, making sure cash flow is good, making sure, we're keeping on top of our clientele, making sure that, we're not dropping the ball anywhere, making sure that we're communicating with our clients, making sure that they're happy, making sure that if they need assistance, we're helping them.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a long-term relationship. So for us, it's been really about getting on with it, but also making sure that, we put into practice what we've learned over the last 15 years or so.
Yeah. And it's probably also coming from the background that you've come from, Sam, with the struggles you've had. Like, I can't even imagine what you went through. And I didn't come from a rich family, but man, coming from a war-torn country and having to learn a foreign language, and I'm sure it wasn't all happy days at school. Kids that are different usually get teased and stuff. So, yeah, I can only imagine what you went through. So,
yeah. But that builds resilience, right? That builds resilience, and that gives you the fire in your belly. So for me, starting a business was number one. It was something that I was really intrigued by, starting my own business. Never had done it before, but it was also for me, it was about, I never wanted to go to that bad place again.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be the kid that never had the cool shoes. I never wanted to be the kid that got picked on. I never wanted to have to cry every night at home growing up saying, why are we so poor? Why is life so hard? Why don't we have what other kids have? As a kid, you don't understand why, because you're too young to understand that, because all you think is that, what have we done for life to be so difficult? Like, I remember growing up, one of my special moments was when we got a black and white TV delivered from the church.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Right? It was such a special moment for me as a 10, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, like I'm around that. I was so, so happy, those little things. So for me, it was about taking that, doing something and changing the cycle. But above that, now that you can, how do you make a difference in that kid's life that was you 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And that's what I love. And that's why I do the podcast. That's why, I don't sell products. I don't sell anything, right? So this is why I do what I do. This is why I'm on Instagram, because I know what it feels like to be that kid. I know what it feels like to be that boy or girl that sits there and goes, wow, life is so hard.
I think it's awesome that you're putting yourself out there more. There's a lot of times when I was younger as well, Sam, where I thought, man, how did that person get to where they're at? And they give you a little bit of info, but they wouldn't want to reveal their secrets. But there's plenty of money to go around, Like, I think it's really cool especially in Australia, where there's a lot of foreign investment. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's important to nourish the Australian culture and help the homegrown businesses really thrive and flourish. And that's what you're doing, which I think is great. You don't seem to have a big ego or anything like that, and that's key. Sharing your success with others to inspire them and bring them up. And there's nothing better, man. I'm sure you've experienced this, when someone gives you a review on your podcast and they say, thank you, I got this and that from it. It feels so good. So it's almost like a selfish act, but yeah.
It is, but you're doing the same thing. By doing what you're doing, you're doing exactly the same thing. And it's about, I am such a massive believer of, I love Australia so much. I'm patriotic when it comes to our country.
Me too.
I just hate seeing so much talent here, and then we always bring talent from overseas here. I'm like, well, we have the best minds, the best entrepreneurs, the most beautiful people here. Why don't we actually push our own people and create a community and have these kind of conversations and help each other? Because by showcasing and helping each other, we're allowing other young people to see that what's achievable and what they can achieve. And as for ego and jealousy are the two biggest curses for a human being. Your ego does nothing but really set you back. And your jealousy, the same thing. I'm totally against those two things. And, I think you really got to focus on yourself and how you can give back. And I'm a massive believer of karma. And I'll tell you what, if you do the right things, it comes back tenfold.
It does, man. 100%. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Well, on the note of karma, you guys, Broadband Solutions, have won some incredible awards over the years. And I noted in 2012 to 13 and 13 to 14, you guys more than doubled your revenue, which is incredible. What did you guys do to do that?
There's like, it's interesting, it's like when you're starting your business, it's really more sales focused, right? So it's all about just sales. You don't have a lot of processes, HR, all that kind of stuff that you end up having. There's also like there's this cycle between, hundreds of thousands to a couple of mil to 5 to 10 plus. All those cycles, you have new challenges. Right. And I'll tell you, it's all a whole new learning curve all over again, right? So initially, you're very gung-ho. It's all about just making sales. So you see a lot of growth because that's what your number one focus is.
But it's a little bit chaotic probably, right? You're bringing money in, you're like, invoicing, and it's crazy.
It's all just sales. Yeah. And then you go, okay, now we have to have customer retention. Now we have to have customer service. And at the same time, it's easy to double from 10,000 to 20,000, from 1 million to 5 million, but it's not easy to go from 25 million to 50 million, 50 million to 100 million. It's a totally different ball game. So what you find is that when you see growth at that level, it's mainly done by acquisition and not organically. We focus a lot on growing our business organically. And if you want to get those kind of growth at a high end, it really comes down to doing a lot of acquisitions, which are fantastic. But I'll tell you what, being a private business and not a public company, we don't have to just do acquisitions for the sake of acquisitions to make our numbers look good for shareholders. So for me, it's always been about synergies and finding people that there's synergies, but they don't do what you do. So you can bring two new things together and grow it together rather than just buying contracts to add extra revenue for no reason.
Yeah. So is that what you did in those periods to grow those synergies?
No. So initially it was just all organic. So we've never done an acquisition. But in the last probably 5 years, we've looked at some acquisitions, but I didn't want to just acquire somebody or merge with someone for the sake of doing it. For me, it was about just stay true to yourself, because I went through the phase working elsewhere before I started my business, where I saw a lot of mergers and acquisitions happen, and the share market took it quite well. But then when there was no more acquisitions or mergers to be done, then it was house cleaning, clean the house. And then they realized, wow, we have 20 different billing systems. We have all these double ups. Oh, wow, it's an absolute mess. And then you see the share plummet. Right? And I've been through all that. So for me, I didn't want to make those same mistakes. So it was about just, there's no synergies.
Yeah, wise man. So there's obviously a huge benefit in staying private company rather than listing. Do you think you'd ever list, or it's an option, or you don't want to?
Yeah, look, I don't know. It's a good question. Look, I looked at it probably 5-6 years ago, and I think you got to be at a certain level to be able to do it if you want to do it properly. But also, it can be quite a big distraction for a lot of businesses. And for us, our focus is to remain a technology company. It's very important to diversify. I'm a massive believer of diversification. So for me, I'm working currently on a project where, 15 years ago, we decided to build our own phone system in the cloud. People didn't even know what voice over IP was, and PABXs were like in the cloud back 15 years ago, but we built our own. And for us, I'm working on a project where we want to take that product, we've put into AWS. So straight away now, the global reach is so much bigger than what it was. For me, it's about getting certified by certain hospitality brands. So we are the number one to go to when it comes to cloud phone systems. But it's also not a phone system. We've invested a lot of time and effort building AI into the phone system. So it becomes an AI tool. And what I mean by that is that any phone can make phone calls, whether it's in the cloud or not, right? It's common sense. So for us, it's about what happens when someone calls you and your CRM is connected to your phone system. So when someone calls, straight away, the CRM recognizes that person, which is nothing anybody can really do that.
Yeah.
But then what it does, it pulls up all the information about that system based on what's available in the World Wide Web. So whatever's available in Google, whatever's available in Instagram, whatever's in Facebook, and presents that information on your fingertips. Now, as a consumer, I can have a very good conversation with you. I can have a conversation because I know who your footy team is. I know, what you did on the weekend based on what's out there. I know there's privacy issues, but I'm going based what's out there on the internet anyway. And then again, that helps relationship building.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And that's what differentiates you from everybody else. So for us, it's about working on projects like that and differentiating our business and doing things like that.
Yeah.
Rather than doing other things.
Yeah, very cool. Some serious tech and AI and VR and all those kinds of things are, they're the way of the world nowadays. And I don't think some people realize how important it is and how it can really help a business. But tech's cool, man. I love what you guys are doing, and I didn't realize how far you're going. It's cool. Yeah. So off the topic of business a little bit, let's talk about you personally, Sam. A lot of people talk about morning routines, night routines. Is there anything specific you do in the mornings or night to kind of prepare yourself for one down from a day?
No, I'm terrible. I go to sleep really late, which I shouldn't be doing. So I usually get to sleep around midnight, if not 1 a.m., which is terrible, which is absolutely terrible. And
I would too, but my partner nags me, come to bed. So.
Yeah, I go to bed too, but I just don't sleep. And I usually get up at 5 a.m. I've never slept in my life. I've never had an alarm clock in my entire life. I don't understand the concept of alarm clocks. It's very foreign to me.
Yeah.
I get up very early. I have my coffee. I have a lot going on all the time. But a perfect day for me would be coming to my office, working out in the morning, and just, going for a walk and then starting my day. But no, it doesn't happen all the time. Yeah. And I'm aware of that, but I try and make a habit of it, and I try and do it as much as possible. Exercise is very important for me. It clears my mind. Growing up, it was all about vanity, making sure, you have the great body, you look good, but not at all anymore. For me, it's about clearing my mind, being in a great headspace. And
it gives you extra energy, I reckon. Hey, like obviously we're in the fitness game, and it really pumps us up and gets the blood pumping. The happy hormones are pumping, and you feel like you've achieved something if you start your day with exercise. So it
is phenomenal. Like you release those endorphins, and I cannot recommend exercise more than anything to anyone. If you do not do it, you're just a totally different person. I haven't exercised for 3 days. And after this potty, I'm going to jump on and exercise because it's driving me crazy because I missed it so much.
3 days. Oh man. Have you got a trainer down there? PT?
Yeah, look, I do, but not anymore because of what's happening at the moment, obviously. But I use PTs mainly for motivation because I've exercised since I was probably 12 or 13 years old. I've always liked weight training since I was young. I don't mind doing it by myself, but I love PTs at the same time. I have one that works across the road from where I am, he's amazing. And I also used to train with Danny Kennedy, who's fantastic as well in Melbourne.
Awesome.
But at the moment, I just exercise by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And you got the gym in the office too. I've seen a tour of your office. I think you did it, and it looks amazing. It's really cool. It's like a jungle. So what is your personal mission, Sam? Like what do you want to leave the world with when you're gone? Yeah, sure. Look, for me, it's about leaving a legacy. And legacy is like success, happiness, and legacy have different meanings to different people, as far as I'm concerned. You can be successful because you're very rich, or you can be successful because you have certain things, or you could be successful because you have the best partner in the world and you have a white picket fence and a dog. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. It's what it means to you. For me, again, with legacy, the same thing. It's what kind of a legacy do you want to leave? For me, I want to be very true to myself. And I want to make sure that I'm content and I'm happy as a person. That's the most important thing. And that happiness and being content comes from a totally different way. It doesn't come with success and money. It's got nothing to do with it. Yeah. Absolutely nothing to do with it, right? It's just a bonus. 100%. You can buy things, and they give you a high for a bit. And after a while, if they didn't mean anything to you, you get used to it. And you look at it from a different point of view to what everybody else sees it. Yeah. Right? So for me, I've gone on my own journey where I came from nothing. I did really well for myself. And I remember,
because I didn't go out at a young age. When I got a little bit older and I found success, I spent a lot of money and time going out, doing all those silly things that you would do.
Yeah, I did that young.
Now, at 42, for me, I am the happiest I have ever been in my life. I feel very content. And it all comes from having my family, having great friends, having people that I connect with, like yourself, and other people on Instagram that I don't even know, right?
Yeah.
That are just on the same wavelength, and we're trying to do what makes us happy, and we're giving back.
Yeah.
So for me, the legacy would be to leave this world, within my own means, a better place that I came into, and making sure that I leave some kind of a legacy and teach my kids and people around me, and not just my kids, but also, I love bringing on young people on board at my, at our company.
Yeah.
And they are your legacy too, because you affect them. You leave your own mark on their heart. So for me, that's what's really important, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great mission, and I see you doing it, man. You're already doing it. So just keep up what you're doing, and you'll smash it. All right, cool. And a bit of a question on investing. I'm in my I just turned 30 actually, and at this point in my life, I'm looking at different investments, right? Like stocks. We had a chat about stocks, and you're into property now. You're doing some property development. So if you don't mind sharing what you can with the audience about what you believe is a good investment, like how do you like to compound your wealth?
Sure. Okay. Sure. Look, for me, it's about, you do what you feel comfortable with, and you got to tip your toes in different things and learn, based on your experience. I've done a lot. I've been building property for 14 years, if not longer. I don't really talk about it. So I've got to, it's been a massive thing for me. Property has been. I've also, invested in stocks over probably the last 5 years. For me, I'm a massive believer of property. Again, maybe it goes back to my roots of long-term relationships. For me, everything's long-term. I have a saying, small steps are sweet steps. I'm not a big believer of instant gratification. You get burnt, as far as I'm concerned, with my experience. So property, and for me, it's about buying land, building, and keeping. And for me, that's a model that I've used, and I've been doing that for 14, 15 years. And I've been very active. I've been doing it year in, year out. And for me, it's about, I find my secret formula is location, stick to the same location, the size of land, how many townhouses can you fit in it, and what yield in terms of rent return will you get. And the most important thing to me has been, again, what we spoke about initially, is don't have any ego, and just do small steps, small projects, because where people go wrong, in my belief, is that where they overstretch themselves, whether it's stocks, whether it's property, whether it's anything in life. Do what you can within your own means. Take a risk, but don't take a crazy risk.
Don't risk the house. Don't risk the whole portfolio.
Exactly. Exactly. I lost a lot in stocks going back years ago, but you know what? It was my own money. I look back, if it wasn't my money and I got a margin call, wow, how would that feel? And people forget that, because we always hear the good stories, the wins. People don't talk about the losses, because either they're embarrassed or the ego or whatever it is. They don't want to talk about it, right? But it's important to talk about those things. So for me, I learned, again, a long time ago, to diversify. So my advice would be, find your cash cow. Yeah, you need a cash cow.
Yeah, of course.
Find your cash cow. Yeah, that's the number one. Find something that's going to give you the money. Use that cash flow and invest. Don't go and party or blow it on fancy cars and all those kind of things without having an investment. I bought my first Rolex watch at the age of 40.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. 40 years old, I bought my first Rolex watch. I could have bought it way earlier, but it wasn't necessary. It wasn't my number one priority.
And the Rolex doesn't bring in business.
100%. 100%. Don't get caught up in this whole Instagram world. Everything you can do that, but you do it, but it's right for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. It's right. You don't have to live your life with the Joneses and what they do. Don't worry about what other people do. So going back to the thing, for me, by diversifying, using that cash flow to build a property portfolio long term, and then just allowing that to grow over the years more and more and more. And then the plan is, you look at it in 10, 15 years time, and doesn't matter if you have, recessions or whatever you have, it's all cycles. It's all cycles as far as I'm concerned. So the secret is, can you hold out through those cycles? And if you overstretch, you can't. Yeah. And that's where people get in trouble.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, my mentor hammers me on having a 3 to 6 month cash buffer. So that's 3 to 6 months of my bills, so that if shit hits the fan, then I can dig into that and I can survive and breathe. Because when you're in survival mode, man, I've been there before. I'm sure you have too. Your focus is so narrow, and you're just focused on that next dollar, so you can eat, so you can pay the rent. It's not a good place to be for long term. It's stressful. It's not good for the body, not good for the mind. So yeah, but in terms of investing, I've heard from a couple of people who own supercars. You have a Ferrari and a couple of other cool things in the collection. Has that brought some cool relationships for you?
Yeah, big time. So for me, as a young boy, I've always loved cars. Like, growing up, and and I know a lot of young girls that love cars, and that, my daughters, they're tomboys. They love it.
Yeah, I was a massive tomboy.
Well, there you go. And I love that. So I hate how people go, oh, it's just a boys thing. It's not just a boys thing. It's got nothing to do with it. It's just a personal thing. So my girls, they love it, and me growing up, I remember I used to wait for my father to come home. This is back in Iran. And I used to run down and jump on his lap and just turn the car on and off for him. And that was such a special moment for me. So I've been a massive car enthusiast. So to answer your question, it's not just a car. Yeah. It's not a car, it's interesting, actually. We actually have a Ferrari chat group even now on WhatsApp. Yeah. And it's like, I was never a believer of all that stuff. I thought it was just such a weird thing. What do people do? Go for drives? That's just weird. Who does that? But even now, through these hard times, me and the boys, we laugh so much, and the common denominator has been that car that's brought us together. So whether it's a car or whatever it is, whatever it might be, it's something that brings people together that have something in common. So for me, I've been to Monaco, I've been to the factory in Italy a number of times. I've been all around the world with Ferrari and Lamborghini. Awesome. And I have made long-term friends for life throughout those events. And those people I would have never otherwise met if it wasn't because of that one common interest. Yeah. Even Albos that you had on your show, I met Al through cars. Yeah. Again, I met him.
I met him through cars, kind of.
There you go. I remember meeting Al and was sitting there at the first time we caught up. We were both in Sydney and we caught up for a coffee. And then we were talking about cars. And I said, "Where are you from?" He goes, "I'm from Iran." I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Iran too."
Yeah, it's cool.
So we had no idea, So yeah, look, it opens a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, so it's more for you and for a lot of people. It's not just a flashy toy. It's a great networking tool, and also they're lots of fun. I've driven some, and they're great fun. Awesome.
100%. I totally agree with it. I totally agree. 100%.
I like to flip the interview for one question, Sam, and ask you to ask me a question. So it can be about anything. It can be about business. So what have you got for me?
Okay. Yeah, cool. What's your why? Like, what do you want to do? Where are you going?
Well, my why is it's not a person or a thing. It's I had a tough upbringing, I would say, and parents splitting, and then it was just a bit tumultuous, the living environment for some years, and then since I've been an adult, I've had more than 50 jobs. I wrote them down literally 2 days ago in a list in my notes, and I've had 50 jobs, Sam. So throughout university, from the age of 14, I've been working, and I've tried. So for me, it's been more about the jobs than starting businesses, because maybe I didn't think I had it in me to start a business or enough money or whatever. I have started 2 businesses, but you could call them failures or learning experiences. So for me, it's really being an example. There's a lot of people teaching how to build a business and they've never built a business before. For me, it's all about being a living example. So by me living to my full potential in my life, and then documenting the journey and providing a platform like this podcast for people to learn from, yourself and me, with a few interjected stories. People can learn and say, oh, I'm just like them, I can do it too. That's all it is. It's just inspiring other people to step up and build a better life for themselves. Don't settle. I've seen so many friends, man, they get to a point and they've failed a couple of times, even just 2 times, and then they find a partner, settle down. If that's what they're happy with, then good. But then they come to me and they tell me they're not happy. Oh, I did this, and then I had 2 kids, and then now we're split, and I'm doing it tough, and I wish I did this, I wish I did that. It kills me to hear that, man, when these people have so much talent. So for me, it's just, I'm 30 now, and I don't have a multi-million-dollar business yet. But I'm not stopping or slowing down anytime soon. So just being that living example.
I love that. And you know what? I was 27, 28 when I probably started my business, going back now. So age is just a number. It's got nothing to do with it. I think it comes down to determination. And, I love what you're doing. It's so cool, and good on you for doing that, because, I always look back at, wow, I wish I documented my journey, like, from the start. It would have been so good to be able to see that. So you're doing a great job, and I love what you're doing. You're doing an awesome job. So that's great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I really appreciate your time and support along the way. It's been really cool meeting you through Instagram. Who would have thought Instagram would be a networking platform? But it's awesome, man. And what you're doing is really inspiring also. I certainly learn a lot from you and your podcasts.
Thank you.
The Outdoors one was a hit. That was a great vibes.
Thank you.
So finally, Sam, there's a lot of people listening to this podcast who have a business. They may even have a multi-million-dollar business at the moment. They want to take it to the next level. So if anyone who's lacking a bit of confidence, or isn't sure of themselves, or they're feeling overwhelmed, mostly the confidence thing, I think people have fears or confidence issues. Like Grant Cardone says, 10x your thinking. How can people overcome that? And just,
okay, you got to believe in yourself, right?
How can they build it if they're lacking it?
Yeah, okay. So what do you got to lose? If you don't give things a go, what do you got to lose? If you don't, so for me, you got to be happy with who you are as a person. Number one, right? And I'm a massive believer of you come first before anybody else, okay? On a plane, put your mask on before you put the person next to you. Yeah. So for me, it's about, you got to say, I am worthy. I am worthy of being the person that I want to be. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, right? Yeah. You can say, I am worthy of being this person. I believe in myself. I can achieve anything I set my mind to. There's no difference. We all put our pants on one leg at a time in the morning. Yeah. We all have to, we really do, right? We all have to, we all have a mind. We all, there's no difference between any of us. Yeah. Yes, different circumstances. Life plays you a different card. And sometimes it's fucking terrible. I've been through it, but it is what it is. Okay? It is what it is. And it's sad and it shouldn't happen, but it happens. So what do? You allow that to continue to affect you and rule you? Or do you say, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to use our fire. I'm going to use it as fuel to allow me to change who I am as a person. And by doing that, I'm not only doing it for me, but I'm doing it for millions of other people out there that are in the same situation or worse than me, right? Yeah. So even though it's selfish at the same time. And once you look after you, once you're okay, then you have a responsibility to give back. You have to pay your rent to be in this world. You have to, as a person. I'm a massive believer of that. But I tell you, it's all about not giving up. It's not the smart ones that win. It's the persistent ones. You got to be resilient. Shit happens. But time fixes everything. I can guarantee you, time fixes everything. Yeah. Well, how you feel today is not how you're going to feel in 3 days' time. And if it was easy, then it would be a boring fucking world. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's not supposed to be. It doesn't work like that, right? So you got to get on with it, but you got to believe in yourself, and you got to manifest, right? You got to manifest things. I'm a massive believer of that. No, I didn't watch The Secret. I don't watch much movies. But for me, honestly, I always loved cars as a kid. So I used to, when I had no money, I used to go and rent cars. And I felt what it felt like to drive a Porsche. I felt what it felt like to drive a Ferrari. I felt, I saved my money and I used to go nice places because I felt like what it felt. I felt it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I felt it, I said to myself, I am worthy of having this. I am worthy of being here. There's nothing wrong with me, right? And I believed in myself and I pushed myself not to prove to others, but to prove to me, number one, that I am worthy. And you must do that. And that's where it comes from. And don't ever let anybody tell you you can't do anything, because they are the ones that are scared. They don't want to see you succeed, right?
Yeah.
You can do everything. It's up to you. You got to set your mind to it, and nothing can stop you but you. Simple as that. And that's how what I do. I get very emotional about stuff like that.
Fuck, man. Yeah, I really feel it. Hey, and I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much for your words. Yeah, I've driven a couple of cars, like you said, and our boss kindly took us for a spin, and man, you're in that, and you feel the adrenaline, you feel so good, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm having this one day, and then I get out, and I come up here into my apartment, and I'm like, let's go, get to work. Work's going to get me there. And it's so inspiring having that experience. And then it really, so to all the listeners, 100%. Make sure you give yourself a taste and then go back to work and work your ass off and make it happen.
100%. And if I could just say one more thing, what's really important is live low life for yourself and don't worry about what people think of you. As human beings, we are always judged and we care too much about what others think about us. But just remember this. 50% of people will like you, 50% of others won't like you.
Yeah.
By the time, as soon as you walk in, based on your color, based on your race, based on your looks, based on the way you speak. But you know what? Not everybody has to like you. Not everybody has to like you.
You have to like you. That's the main thing.
Spot on. And that's all that matters. As long as you're a good person, you're happy with yourself, that's all that matters. Don't be a people pleaser. Do what you want to do and go for your goals and dreams, and you'll always be happy.
Awesome. Well, I don't think we could end the podcast on a better note, Sam. So once again, thank you so much for your beautiful words and for coming on, sharing your story and inspiring the next generation. It's really cool. And it's a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to meeting you in person and drinking some Torbeck with you. Shout out to Torbeck.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a lovely day.
Sam. You too.